Salvete omnes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the continuing coverage of Caesar's Gallic Wars. We have finished Book 5. I did that in the last video. We're now moving on to Book 6, the last bit of Latin that we will cover. And here it's a little bit more of an ethnography of the Gauls. We're not so much focused on Caesar's exploits in the area as much as we are going to learn a little bit more about the people. So this will be similar, perhaps, in I say style of the very beginning of Book 1. So not a lot of action, but a lot of interesting information. So Book 6 we pick up in section 13. You can see it's a long one. This will take up the video for today. So let's get into it. In omni Gallia, eorum hominum, qui aliquo sunt numero aqua honore, genera sunt duo. So you actually see, just looking at the words and the word order, it seems to mimic the very beginning of Book 1 in some ways. So, in all of Gaul, of the men who are with some number and honor. So I'm trying to think of what sort of ablative this is. This is an ablative of, generally something like description. They are of some number and honor. So people of some importance. So in all of Gaul, of the men, genitives here, we'll find out why, of the men who are with some number or of some number and honor, the types of these men are two. And you can see that kind of mimics the beginning, right? All of Gaul is as a whole divided into three parts. In all of Gaul, the types of people who are kind of worth mentioning are two. Nam, so we'll find out why there are just two groups of significant people. Nam, plebes paene servorum habetur loco, quae nihil audet per se, nullo adhibetur concilio. For the plebes, the plebs, the commoners, the 99%, whatever you want to call them, the plebs are held in the place, loco, in the place almost of slaves. So they're not quite slaves. They have rights, theoretically, but they have very little power, honore. Very little power, honor, and probably very little money. So they're held almost in the place of slaves. Plebes is 50 clension. In this case, it's 50 clension. I believe it's 50 clension. I think you'll see both as. Have seen both as fifth and third? Anyway, it's feminine, which is why qua here is feminine. That's ultimately what I want to get down to. So plebes, the people who dare nothing, and I think this is dare is kind of like in the sense of attempt. They don't try anything. They don't dare to do anything themselves on their own, per se, or just do anything per se, right? So they're held on the place of slaves. They dare nothing on their own, and they are, I won't say invited to, but they are present. They are welcome, perhaps. I mean, you can see it's passive, right? It's ad hibeo. So, they are held at, right? It's not, in this case, it's actually the opposite of inhibited. They are not kind of allowed, maybe, in any. They are allowed in no council. They are allowed in no. I think this is referring to the meeting. So they don't care nobody cares what the plebs have to say. Right? They don't get to do anything themselves, and they aren't even invited to councils. So we'll make all decisions. You all just go along with it. Very, very, very unfortunate. Pleriqua, cum aut aera alieno, aut magnitudine tributorum, aut injuria potentiorum premuntor, sese in servitutem dicant nobilibus. In hos eadem omnia sunt iura, quae dominis in servos. Several of them, most of them, that is the plebs, Here we're going to get a cum clause with, I was going to say with a subjunctive, but prementor. Oh, no. Um, I want cum to be going with prementor, but that's definitely not a subjunctive. I guess this is cum as in the sense of whenever. I want this to be since. All right, we've talked about cum clauses before and how they can be when, since, or although. When they're with a subjunctive, but when they're an indicative, it's more along the lines of whenever. So let's take a look at it that way. I wanted it to be because, but I think whenever makes more sense. Will work here, and actually is almost perhaps more pathetic. Whenever they are pressed by, this is loans, literally by foreign money. Foreign, I think technically bronze, but loans. So whenever they are pressed by loans or by the size of, we'll say, taxes, tributes, or by the injustice of the more powerful. So whenever whenever the plebs, kind of like this, like for the most part, right? Several of them, whenever they are kind of overwhelmed, might be a good way of translating prementor here, overwhelmed by either loans or size of taxes, the amount of taxes, or by the this is the saddest one perhaps, the injustice of the more powerful. Stop me if this sounds familiar. These people declare for decont, I think. They declare themselves into, or kind of, declare themselves into the servitude, into the service for the nobles. So they just give in. They say it's kind of indentured servitude sort of idea, you could say, or just pure slavery. Voluntary slavery, right? Where, well, I can't pay my loans or my taxes or whatever, and so look, you can just let me work off my debt is kind of the idea of what's going on here. So upon them, or towards them, against them, so in plus those, this is referring to the plebs, towards them, all the same, omnia eadem, all of the same laws, or there are all of the same laws, which there are, repeat sunt, which there are for masters towards slaves. And so this is putting it into a context of kind of Roman social hierarchy, right? Nobles versus plebs. Rome is definitely a class-tiered society. There is class division, and it's understood, it's recognized, it's part of their lives, but they still, they at least have some sort of symbiotic relationship, I guess you could say. There is not that sort of thing really between masters and slaves. There's really not a lot of working together as there might be between the plebs and the nobles in Rome. But in Gaul, basically, there are the same laws for nobles towards the plebs, these people who kind of give themselves into servitude, as there are for masters into slaves. And masters have basically complete control over their slaves in Rome, so these nobles, it's not kind of like you kind of lose your rights as a person, I think is the idea here conveyed by that. And that is very unfortunate for the Gauls. Well, for the poor Gauls, for the rich Gauls, and whatever, free labor, I guess. Said, de his duobus generibus, alterum est druidum, alterum equitum. So, there are three systems or three kind of levels or groups of people in Gaul. They're the plebs, and we have mentioned the plebs here. You've got the low class, just kind of, they get the job done. They're the ones who do all of the work. And then you've got these two groups that have any sort of number and honor. So, but Of these two types, which I mentioned above, one of them is the group of druids. So druidum here, genitive. I would say this, partitive genitive, going with generibus. There is the type or the group of druids. So one group is of druids, the other is of the equites, knights, cavalrymen. Knights is perhaps the best way to translate. I'll have to say it's a modern translation, but really, it's a medieval translation. We don't have knights anymore, but that's kind of the idea here. People wealthy enough to own a horse and therefore use it in battle. Those ones, sorry, I need to do the Latin. Illi, rebus divinis intersunt, sacrificia publica ac privata procurant, religionis interpretantur. Adhos magnus adolescentium numerus disciplinae causa concurrit, magnoque hi sunt apud eos honore. Illi, those guys. So when referring to multiple groups, we've listed a couple of different people. Illi refers to the farthest one away. Those people, i.e. the druids, they are present for divine matters. They take care of public and private sacrifices, or religious events. So public, right, for the state, and private, so like maybe think like a wedding ceremony. They interpret, this should be deponent, they interpret religious scruples, as one of my professors would describe it. They're the ones who kind of make the religious declarations, decisions, etc. To these people, these druids, a great number of adolescents, a great number of young men flock perhaps might work. A great number of adolescents flock to these druids for the sake of study. I won't necessarily translate as discipline. You could, in a pinch, if you just trying to get the words out. But study is kind of the idea here. They want to learn about their religion, or they just want to get out of their terrible situation. And these are, again, these druids are among them, or kind of in their presence, and I think Eos here referring to the adolescents. These are kind of I would almost translate this like it very loosely as like they are seen by them with great honor. Literally, these druids are with a great honor, ablative of like description or like a character, quality. They are with great honor among them. So they are seen by these adolescents as very honorable, very impressive. We continue to talk about the druids. Lots about the druids. Nam. Fere de omnibus controversiis publicis privatisque constituunt, et, si quod est ad misum facinus, si caedes facta, si de hereditate de finibus controversia est, idem decernunt, primia poenasque constituunt. Si qui, aut privatus aut populus, eorum decreto non statit, sacrificis interdicunt. So they are kind of held in great regard among them. All right. 4. So why do these druids have such an important standing? 4. They, I guess, make decisions. Fere de omnibus. Fere here, adverb meaning almost. Used when Latin is very literal. They want to avoid, at least in prose, they want to avoid exaggeration and hyperbole. And so the fere here is to kind of weaken the omnibus, but still kind of like you want like the idea of everything, but you also you want to like allow for the handful of exceptions. So they make decisions about almost all controversies, public and private. So any sort of debate there might be publicly. So, consider this would be like the Supreme Court idea in modern America, right? These would be public debates, trying, interpretations of laws or whatever. They also make decisions, though, about almost all private things. And so this could be, this is Judge Judy here, right? Publicis, Supreme Court, privatis, Judge Judy, and everywhere in between. That's what the Druids do, right? Fere de omnibus. Almost all of these. There may be the occasional private affair that they don't deal with. And if there is any kind of crime committed, if any crime is committed, if a murder happens, or if a slaughter is made, if there is a controversy concerning inheritance or borders, boundaries, boundaries. I'm trying to think what else. Property, I guess you might say. The same people, that is the Druids, they make their decisions, they make the judgments, and they decide the awards and the penalties. So they do all that, right? If anyone, either a private citizen or a public citizen, would be a politician or something of the sorts, right? An official. If anyone, either private or public, does not or did not, it's perfect here. If they did not stand by their decree, Aorum here, going referring to the Druids, right? If they don't stand by the decree of them, if they don't do what they say, so, right, they determine that this son deserves the inheritance more than that son, or they determine that it wasn't murder, it was an accidental death, or whatever, right? Whether they're a public official, maybe it was or maybe they're a private citizen, heredity, maybe it's a public official, right? Whatever the case, whatever the public officials might be debating about, tax collection or something. If they don't do what the Druids say, decreto non state, if they don't stand by their decree, that is, I think the Druids forbid them or excommunicate them from the sacrifices, from religious benefits or something like that. So, in a more modern sense, as far as like the Catholic Church goes, you can be excommunicated. That's kind of the idea here. They forbid them from sacrifices. So they cut them off from the gods, right? Which is not a situation you want to find yourself in. For instance, and Caesar says so, haec poena apud eos est gravissima. This penalty among them, or kind of for them, is the most grave, is the most serious. So, Druids have a lot of power, right? A lot of honor. I wanted to talk about this and I got carried away with everything else. You've got the si quod up here, and you've got the si qui down here, and I translated quod as anything, or any, going with Facinus, and translated qui as anyone. There's a mnemonic that floats around the classics community. After si, nisi, num, and ne, all the allies go away. Ali, A-L-I. And so if you see a QU word following si, nisi, num, or ne, supply ali to make your translation a little bit more sense. So imagine that this is si ali quod. All right. If anything or any crime is committed, si ali qui or ali quis. If any one, private or public, does blah blah blah. Right, so that's why quod and qui were translated as anything, as opposed to just simply what or who. So, All right. So, serious penalty to be cut off from sacrifices. Quibus ita est interdictum, hi numero impiorum ac sceleratorum abentor. His omnes decedunt, aditum sermonum quod defugiunt, ne quid ex contagione incommodi accipiant, neque his petentibus jus redditor, neque onos ulus communicatur. For those whom, for the ones, it is interdicted thus, for the ones who, for which there is excommunication, these people are held in the number of the impious, and of the perhaps the unclean, and the wicked. Quibus here, relative clause, before its antecedent. So these, for whom there is this excommunication, are held. Everyone departs from them. Yeah, recedes from them, departs from them, and flees their approach. They flee their approach and their conversation. And here we get, just pointing out the grammar here, ne quid, after si, nisi, num, and ne. So this you could translate as ne, or assume, imagine that it says ne, aliquid. They do this so that they, that is the people running away, so that they do not receive anything, anything of an inconvenience. Quid going with the genitive incommodi. So, nothing of an inconvenience or of a, how so literally it's like inconvenience. So they don't receive any sort of difficulty from their contact, ex contagione. So, these people are considered kind of rejects of society. And so everybody runs away from them, and you don't want to be seen with them, right? Talking to them, standing near them, etc. Because you don't want to be kind of lumped into their group. Nor is justice given to them seeking it, or even like returned to them. So justice, laws are not say justice for use, is not returned to them asking for it, nor is any honor communicated to them, is is ascribed to them, something like that. Onos, third declension, nominative singular. So it looks like it might be accusative plural. It is third declension. All right, so you get excommunicated. You are a blight on society. You should just leave. All right. His altem omnibus druidibus praest unus, qui summum inter eos habet auctoritatem. Back to the Druids. We've talked about the excommunicated. Let's talk about the Druids. So his omnibus druidibus is all one case. It's going to be dative here with priest. So one druid is in charge of all of these druids. So there was one kind of in front of all these druids. There's one in charge of all these druids who has the highest authority among them. It's kind of like a pope, in the modern sense for Catholicism or whatever, where you've got these all these cardinals, and whatnot, or bishops, whichever the second highest ranking religious figure in the Catholic Church is. I don't remember. I think cardinal. No, it's bishop. I don't know. You can figure it out yourself if you care that much. But you've got these this kind of upper tier, but among all of them, there was the one who has the greatest authority among them, and he's the Pope. Or in this case, head druid. Hoc mortuo aut siqui ex reliquis excellet dignitate succedit, aut, si sunt plures pares, suffragio druidum, non numquam etiam armis de principatu contendunt. This is one of my favorite sentences. With this one dead, so if he dies, the highest druid, either, I'm gonna ignore the out real quick. If there is someone, si aliqui, if someone from the remaining druids excels in dignity, he succeeds him. Right? He takes over. So either, so somebody takes over either if he excels from the others in dignity or worth, or if there are several equals in terms of this dignitate, he succeeds by a vote of the druids. I would like more periods personally here, as opposed to all these commas. I would like a period or a semicolon after druidum, but so if the head druid dies, the person takes over if there's someone who excels the others, or if there are several others, he takes over after a vote, which is how the Pope is determined. But sometimes, literally not never, right? Sometimes even they contend for the Principate, they contend for this highest rank with weapons, which I absolutely love the idea of. That these, because I always imagine that they're like old men, right? But, you know, I love the idea that it's, think Black Panther, and who determines, and how you determine who gets to be the leader, right, of Wakanda. You had this fight, and so I imagine it's something like that, where these druids get around in a circle and they fight, and last one standing gets to be the new leader. It's just an amazing image. Forget voting for the Pope. Let the different bishops and cardinals fight it out to figure out who gets to be the leader. I love it. All right. Hi certo anni tempore infinibus carnutum, quae regio totius Gallia mediabetur, considunt in loco consecrato. So, these people, these druids, in a certain time of the year, in the borders of the Carnutes, which region is held in the middle of all of Gaul, so this is kind of like the central city or region of all of Gaul, these men, in this region, they gather, they settle in a consecrated or in a sacred place. So, at a certain time of the year, so every year, they come together in this sacred place in the middle of Gaul. So it's kind of like, again, think modern American politics, where all of these different senators and representatives gather at Washington, D.C. for, you know, their congressional sessions. Though it sounds like the Jews just do it like one time a year, I would imagine for like maybe a month or something. Whereas Congress does it like multiple times throughout the year, I think, right? They go on different recesses. All right, and I think this was just mentioned at Book 5. This is what kind of started the issue. The Druids had just had their session at Carnutes, and Caesar then divvies up his forces. So I believe we heard about this in Book 5. Huc omnes undiqua, qui controversias habent, conveniunt eorum quo decretis judicisque parent. To this place, that is this region among the Carnutes, everyone from everywhere, everyone who has a debate, who has a disagreement, who has a controversy, if you don't want to think too hard about the translation, everyone who has a conversation or has a discussion, a disagreement, they come from everywhere, and they obey the decrees and the judgments of them. So, again, imagine the Supreme Court idea here, where if you've got a Supreme Court opens itself up, imagine they open themselves up to hearing court cases once a year for a month, and if anybody has some sort of disagreement, they come, and then, as always, they obey the decrees and the judgments of the Supreme Court. Disciplina in Britannia reperta, atquinde in Gallium translata esse existimator, et nunc, qui diligentius eam rem cognoscere volunt, plerumque illo discendi causa proficiscuntur. So, the study, the discipline, I don't know how I would translate it. I'll just go with something like the study. I don't like that. I mean, almost it's just kind of like the religion for Disciplina. I'm going to go with religion here because it makes more sense in my mind. The religion is believed to have been found or discovered in Britain, and then, or from there, was carried across into Gaul. So study, again, I think religion almost works as a translation here. This concept of druids, right, is believed to have been found in Britain or discovered in Britain, uncovered in Britain, and then translated, carried over into Gaul. And now, at this time, those who want to learn the matter, who want to kind of almost study for cognoscere, those who want to kind of learn the matter more diligently, they set out oftentimes, I guess, plerumque, or quite often, they set out to that place, I believe referring to Britain, for the sake of learning, for the sake of studying. So, if you want to be a druid, you can go and you can just kind of study with the druids in Gaul. But if you want to be like a druid, if you really want to deepen your understanding, then you would go to Britain. All right. We are not done with the druids. The druids will continue to be talked about in section 14, but we are going to stop there. This video is long enough. So, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Hit me up in class or in email. If you have comments or critiques about how to improve it. I've kept the colors the same. I think I like this darker method, the inverse color, a little bit more. If nothing else, for those of you who like to study late at night and you don't want to hurt your eyes, and I think this is better for that. So, again, if you have anything you want to tell me, then comment, email, hit me up in class. Just a few more videos. We think about 3 more videos, and then we'll be done with Caesar. We go through section 20. So, exciting. With that, have a great rest of your day. I will see you in the next video. Later.